Stop worrying about tomorrow. And it's stealing your peace. Let me ask you something honestly. How much of your life have you spent living in a day that hasn't even happened yet? You wake up today, but your mind is already in next week. You sit at dinner, but your thoughts are in next month. You try to sleep, but your heart is racing through next year. And Jesus looks at you and says something that sounds almost impossible. Take therefore no thought for the morrow. No thought? In a world built on planning, forecasting, and preparing? Yes. No anxious thought. No fear-driven obsession. No borrowing trouble that doesn't belong to today. You are exhausting yourself, fighting battles that have not arrived. You are grieving outcomes that may never exist. You are carrying weights God never placed on your shoulders. And slowly, quietly, anxiety is draining the joy out of the only day you actually have. Today, Jesus did not say tomorrow won't have trouble. He said tomorrow will take care of itself. That means tomorrow has an owner, and it's not you. Some of you feel responsible for holding your entire future together. Your career, your children, your health, your finances, your reputation. But listen carefully. If your peace depends on your ability to control what hasn't happened yet, you will never know rest. God never designed you to manage tomorrow. He designed you to trust Him today. And until you understand that, you will keep living in a day that doesn't exist, while missing the grace that does. Tonight, we are going to confront worry at its root, not with shallow encouragement, not with positive thinking, but with truth. Because when Jesus said, "Take therefore no thought for the morrow," He wasn't offering advice. He was giving you freedom, and it's time you take it. Part 1. Jesus said it, and He meant it. These words are not motivational quotes. They are not poetic suggestions. They are not optional spiritual extras for stronger Christians. They are the words of Jesus Himself. In the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, surrounded by crowds of ordinary people, workers, mothers, fathers, poor laborers, Jesus looks them in the eye and says, "Do not worry about tomorrow." Think about that. He didn't say it to people with savings accounts and insurance plans. He said it to people who live day to day. Daily wages, daily bread, daily survival. And still, He said it, which means this command is not disconnected from real life. It was spoken into real pressure, real need, real uncertainty. When Jesus says something, He is not naive. He knows what bills feel like. He knows what hunger feels like. He knows what betrayal feels like. He knows what suffering feels like. And yet He says, "Do not worry." That tells you something powerful. Worry is not inevitable. It feels natural. It feels automatic. It feels responsible. But Jesus treats it like something you can refuse. Not because tomorrow won't matter, but because tomorrow is not yours to carry. When He says, "Take no thought," He is not condemning planning. He is confronting anxiety. There is a difference between preparation and panic. Preparation says, "I will do what I can today." Panic says, "If I don't control everything, everything will fall apart." Preparation is faithfulness. Panic is fear pretending to be wisdom. Jesus is addressing the heart that constantly projects disaster, the mind that rehearses worst-case scenarios, the soul that never rests, because it is always bracing for impact. He is not minimizing your future. He is magnifying your Father. Right before this command, He talks about birds that don't store in barns, yet are fed. He talks about flowers that don't spin fabric, yet are clothed in beauty. And then He says something that should shake you. Are you not much more valuable than they? That is the foundation, not denial of problems, not ignorance of responsibility, but confidence in the Father. If you belong to God, tomorrow does not belong to chaos. It belongs to Him. And when Jesus says, "Do not worry," He is not placing pressure on you. He is lifting pressure off of you. You were never meant to be your own provider. You were never meant to be your own protector. You were never meant to be the architect of your entire future. You have a Father, and if He holds tomorrow, then you don't have to. Jesus said it, and He meant it. The question is, will you believe Him? Part 2. Worry is a thief disguised as responsibility. Let's be honest, most of the time, you don't call it worry, you call it being realistic. You call it thinking ahead. You call it just being responsible. But look closely. Worry is fear dressed up in a suit. It sounds mature. It sounds wise. It even sounds loving sometimes. I'm just concerned about my family. I'm just thinking about what could go wrong. I just want to be prepared. But beneath all of that is a restless heart, trying to control what it cannot control. Worry doesn't protect you. It drains you. It steals your focus. It steals your joy. It steals your ability to fully show up in today. And the most dangerous part, it feels productive. You can sit still and worry for hours and feel like you've done something, but you haven't moved one circumstance. You haven't changed one outcome. You haven't added 1 hour to your life. Jesus said it clearly. Which of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? The answer? None of you. Worry promises control but delivers exhaustion. It promises safety but produces sleepless nights. It whispers, if you think about it enough, you'll prevent it. But that's not faith. That's fear trying to run your future. You weren't designed to mentally rehearse disaster every day. You weren't created to live in constant anticipation of loss. Worry convinces you that if you don't carry tomorrow in your head, it will fall apart. But here's the truth. Tomorrow is not held together by your anxiety. It is held together by God. When you constantly replay worst-case scenarios, you are borrowing pain that may never arrive. You are suffering in advance. You are grieving events that may never happen. And in the process, you miss the grace available right now. Worry is not harmless. It erodes trust. It slowly convinces you that everything depends on you. And the more you believe that, the heavier your life becomes. You feel like the weight of your future is strapped to your back. Career, family, health, finances. And you think if you don't think about it constantly, you're being careless. No. Faith is not carelessness. Faith is confidence in the Father. Responsibility means doing what you can today. Worry means trying to control what only God can handle tomorrow. And those are not the same thing. Stop calling anxiety wisdom. Stop baptizing fear with spiritual language. Worry is a thief, and it has been robbing you long enough. Part 3. Tomorrow is not your assignment. You have an assignment, but it's not tomorrow. It's today. Jesus said something radical. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. In other words, today has enough on its own. You don't need to import extra trouble from the future. God gives daily bread, not monthly anxiety, not yearly guarantees. Daily bread. Think about how Israel survived in the wilderness. When God sent manna from heaven, it came one day at a time. If they tried to store more than they were told, it spoiled. Why? Because God was teaching them dependence. One day at a time. You keep asking God for answers about 5 years from now. He keeps giving you strength for today. You keep demanding clarity about next season. He keeps providing light for this step. Psalm 119 says, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. A lamp doesn't illuminate the entire highway. It shows the next few steps. That's how faith works. You don't need to see the entire future. You need to obey in the present, but your mind keeps running ahead. What if I fail? What if it collapses? What if I'm not ready? Listen carefully. Tomorrow is not your assignment. Obedience today is. Faithfulness today is. Trust today is. You are not responsible for solving problems that haven't arrived. You are responsible for responding to what God has placed in front of you right now. When you live in tomorrow, you neglect today. You rush conversations. You overlook moments. You miss divine appointments because you're mentally somewhere else. But God meets you in the present. His grace is not preloaded for 10 years in advance. It is released as you walk. If you try to live ahead of Him, you will feel anxious. If you lag behind Him in fear, you will feel stuck. But when you walk with Him, step by step, peace follows. You don't need the strength for next year. You need the strength for today. And the good news? He already promised that. His mercies are new every morning. That means tomorrow's mercy will arrive tomorrow. You don't need it yet. Stop trying to carry what God hasn't given you. Tomorrow is in His hands. Today is in yours. And if you are faithful today, He will take care of tomorrow. Part 4. The Father who feeds birds and clothes flowers. Look at what Jesus points to when He talks about worry. Not stock markets, not armies, not kings, birds, flowers. That's intentional. He says, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Think about that. Birds don't have savings accounts. They don't forecast the weather. They don't secure long-term contracts. Yet every morning they wake up, and there is provision, not because they earned it, because God sustains it. Then Jesus says, consider the lilies of the field, wildflowers. They don't manufacture beauty. They don't stress about appearance. They don't strive to impress. Yet Solomon, in all his glory, was not dressed like one of them. And then Jesus asks you something that should stop your anxiety in its tracks. Are you not much more valuable than they? You are not a bird. You are not a flower. You are a child. Birds have a creator. You have a father. There is a difference. Creation is sustained. Children are cared for. When you worry constantly about tomorrow, you are living like an orphan, like no one is watching, like no one is responsible, like everything depends on you. But Jesus keeps using that word, Father. Your heavenly Father knows that you need these things. He knows before you ask, before you panic, before you lose sleep. He knows. The problem is not that God is unaware. The problem is that you are unconvinced. You believe He can feed birds. You struggle to believe He will handle your future. You believe He clothes flowers. You struggle to believe He will provide for your life. Why? Because you measure God's faithfulness by your circumstances instead of by His character. Birds don't wake up doubting. Flowers don't bloom in fear. They simply exist within the order God established. And Jesus is inviting you into that same rest. Not laziness, not passivity, but confidence. You work, you plan, you obey, but you do it with peace, because the one who feeds birds and clothes flowers is not less attentive to you. He is more. You are not forgotten in the crowd. You are not invisible in the system. You are seen. You are known. You are valued. And if your Father governs the details of nature, He is not overwhelmed by the details of your life. So stop living like provision depends on your panic. Your Father feeds. Your Father clothes. Your Father knows. And He has never missed a day. Part 5. When worry becomes a form of unbelief. This part may be uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. There is a point where worry stops being weakness and starts becoming unbelief. Not momentary fear, not human emotion, but a settled pattern of distrust. When you constantly assume the worst, when you repeatedly expect collapse, when you live as though disaster is inevitable, you are quietly declaring something about God. You are saying, I don't believe you will come through. Maybe you would never say it out loud, but your anxiety is preaching it. Worry questions God's goodness. Will He really provide? It questions His sovereignty. Is He really in control? It questions His faithfulness. Will He really keep His promises? Jesus says, "O you of little faith." He connects worry directly to trust, not because He is condemning you, but because He is revealing the root. Worry grows where trust is weak, and trust grows where you know the Father. If you believe God is distant, you will worry. If you believe God is unpredictable, you will worry. If you believe God is reluctant, you will worry. But if you know Him as faithful, truly faithful, something changes. You stop assuming tomorrow will destroy you. You stop bracing for catastrophe. You stop acting like God is unreliable. Listen carefully. Faith is not pretending problems don't exist. Faith is believing God exists within them. Worry says, what if everything falls apart? Faith says, even if it does, God will hold me. Worry says, what if I lose it all? Faith says, God remains. Worry magnifies uncertainty. Faith magnifies God, and you cannot magnify both at the same time. Every time you rehearse fear, you strengthen it. Every time you rehearse God's promises, you strengthen trust. This is not about shaming yourself for feeling anxious. It's about recognizing what you are feeding. Are you feeding fear, or are you feeding faith? Tomorrow will always contain unknowns. But unknown does not mean uncontrolled. God is not pacing heaven, anxious about your future. He is seated, calm. When obi a jiwa da porsiat tospor. Sovereign, if heaven is not panicking, why are you? You say you trust Him. Now let your mind follow your confession, because the more you know Him, the less you will fear tomorrow. And the less you fear tomorrow, the freer you will live today. Part 6. Seek first the kingdom, the divine reordering. Here is the turning point. Jesus does not just say, "Stop worrying." He gives you something else to focus on. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Notice the order. First the kingdom, then the provision. First alignment, then addition. Your anxiety often comes from reversed priorities. You seek security first. You seek comfort first. You seek answers first. You seek guarantees first. And when those don't come fast enough, panic fills the space. But Jesus says, reorder your pursuit. Seek the king before you seek control. Seek righteousness before you seek reassurance. Seek obedience before you seek outcomes. This is not spiritual language. This is strategy. When your heart is fixed on the kingdom, your fear shrinks. When your mission becomes honoring God today, your obsession with tomorrow fades, because you are no longer trying to manage the entire future. You are trying to be faithful right now. The kingdom mindset changes everything. Instead of asking, "What if I lose?" you ask, "How can I obey?" Instead of asking, "What will happen next year?" you ask, "What does God want from me today?" Instead of asking, "How do I secure my life?" you ask, "How do I surrender my life?" And something powerful happens. Peace enters where pressure used to live. Because when you seek first the kingdom, you step into divine order. God never asked you to chase provision. He asked you to chase him. Provision follows pursuit, not panic. When you put God first, you are declaring something with your life. My future is not my God. My Father is. And that changes how you wake up. You stop starting your day scanning for threats. You start your day asking for alignment. Lord, where do you want me? Lord, what pleases you? Lord, how can I reflect you today? When that becomes your focus, worry loses oxygen, because your life is no longer built around securing yourself. It is built around serving him. And here's the promise. All these things shall be added to you. Not maybe, not hopefully, shall. God is not blind to your needs. He is waiting for your priorities. When the kingdom comes first, tomorrow stops dominating your thoughts. Because you know this simple truth. If you honor the king today, he will handle tomorrow. Part 7. Daily trust in a world of uncertainty. Let's talk about reality. We live in uncertain times. Economies shift. Health fails. People disappoint. Plans collapse. And you feel it. The world tells you to brace yourself, to prepare for disaster, to expect instability. But Jesus never promised a predictable world. He promised his presence. Peace does not come from certainty. It comes from trust. Daily trust. Not once a year. Not once a month. Daily. Every morning you wake up, you have a choice. You can check the news and let fear set the tone, or you can check your heart and let faith lead. Trust is not a feeling. It is a decision. You decide to believe that God is steady when everything else shakes. You decide to believe that he sees what you cannot see. You decide to believe that even if outcomes change, his character does not. This is how you live free in uncertainty, not by controlling variables, but by anchoring yourself to something unchanging. God does not promise that tomorrow will look like you expect. He promises that he will be there. I will never leave you nor forsake you. That is the anchor. Your job might change. Your circumstances might shift. Your plans might redirect. But his presence remains. When you truly internalize that, fear loosens its grip, because the worst-case scenario is never abandonment. He is with you in success, in failure, in abundance, in lack, in clarity, in confusion. Daily trust means you wake up and say, "God, I don't know what today holds, but I know who holds me." That sentence alone can silence 1,000 anxious thoughts. You don't need a perfectly stable world. You need a perfectly faithful God, and you have one. So live today boldly. Work hard. Love deeply. Serve faithfully. But refuse to let uncertainty steal your peace. Tomorrow may be unknown to you, but it is not unknown to God. And if he stands in your future already, you don't have to fear walking toward it. Part 8. Living free. What happens when you release tomorrow? Imagine waking up without that tightness in your chest. Imagine going through your day without the constant background noise of what if. Imagine lying down at night and actually resting. That is what happens when you release tomorrow. Not when your life becomes perfect, but when your trust becomes real, when you truly hand tomorrow to God. Something shifts inside you. You stop scanning for danger. You stop assuming disaster. You stop bracing for impact. You begin to live fully present, Lemmifer, available. Worry keeps you half alive, always distracted, always tense, always preparing for a storm that may never come. But when you release tomorrow, you step into freedom. You laugh more freely. You listen more deeply. You love more intentionally, because your mind is not chained to imaginary futures. You are here, now, and that is where God's grace flows. When you release tomorrow, you also become stronger, because strength does not come from rehearsing fear. It comes from repeated trust. Every time you choose to say, "God, I trust you with this," you build spiritual muscle. Every time anxiety rises and you answer it with truth, you grow. Freedom is not passive. It is practiced. You will feel the urge to worry again. You will feel the pull of control. But now you recognize it, and you answer it differently. Instead of spiraling, you surrender. Instead of panicking, you pray. Instead of forecasting disaster, you declare truth. My Father knows. My Father provides. My Father is faithful. Living free does not mean ignoring responsibility. It means refusing to be ruled by fear. You still plan. You still work. You still prepare. But you do it from peace, not panic. And that peace becomes noticeable. People will see it. When others are overwhelmed, you are steady. When others are frantic, you are calm, not because you know more, but because you trust more. Releasing tomorrow also makes you bold, because when your security is anchored in God, risk becomes obedience instead of terror. You step forward when He calls. You move when He leads. You obey without demanding guarantees. Why? Because your confidence is not in outcomes. It is in Him. And here is the beautiful truth. When you stop trying to control tomorrow, you actually enjoy today. You see sunsets. You savor conversations. You recognize blessings. You notice God's hand in small details. Worry blinds you to beauty. Trust opens your eyes. You were not created to live in constant anticipation of loss. You were created to walk with God, step by step, day by day. And when you finally release tomorrow, you discover something powerful. You were never holding it together anyway. He was, and He still is. Conclusion: tomorrow belongs to God, and you belong to Him. Let this settle in your heart. Tomorrow is not your burden. It is God's. You were never designed to carry what only He can control. Jesus did not say, "Figure it out." He said, "Do not worry." That is not weakness. That is invitation. An invitation to rest. An invitation to trust. An invitation to live fully in the grace of today. Your future is not hanging by your anxiety. It is secured by your Father. So release the mental rehearsals. Release the imaginary disasters. Release the weight you were never meant to hold. Wake up tomorrow and choose differently. Choose trust. Choose obedience. Choose peace. Because the one who holds the universe also holds your future. And if tomorrow belongs to Him, and you belong to Him, then you have nothing to fear. Part 1. Jesus said it, and He meant it. These words are not motivational quotes. They are not poetic suggestions. They are not optional spiritual extras for stronger Christians. They are the words of Jesus Himself. In the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, surrounded by crowds of ordinary people, workers, mothers, fathers, poor laborers, Jesus looks them in the eye and says, "Do not worry about tomorrow." Think about that. He didn't say it to people with savings accounts and insurance plans. He said it to people who live day to day, daily wages, daily bread, daily survival. And still, He said it, which means this command is not disconnected from real life. It was spoken into real pressure, real need, real uncertainty. When Jesus says something, He is not naive. He knows what bills feel like. He knows what hunger feels like. He knows what betrayal feels like. He knows what suffering feels like. And yet He says, "Do not worry." That tells you something powerful. Worry is not inevitable. It feels natural. It feels automatic. It feels responsible. But Jesus treats it like something you can refuse. Not because tomorrow won't matter, but because tomorrow is not yours to carry. When He says, "Take no thought," He is not condemning planning. He is confronting anxiety. There is a difference between preparation and panic. Preparation says, "I will do what I can today." Panic says, "If I don't control everything, everything will fall apart." Preparation is faithfulness. Panic is fear pretending to be wisdom. Jesus is addressing the heart that constantly projects disaster, the mind that rehearses worst-case scenarios, the soul that never rests, because it is always bracing for impact. He is not minimizing your future. He is magnifying your Father. Right before this command, he talks about birds that don't store in barns, yet are fed. He talks about flowers that don't spin fabric, yet are clothed in beauty. And then he says something that should shake you. Are you not much more valuable than they? That is the foundation, not denial of problems, not ignorance of responsibility, but confidence in the Father. If you belong to God, tomorrow does not belong to chaos. It belongs to Him. And when Jesus says, "Do not worry," He is not placing pressure on you. He is lifting pressure off of you. You were never meant to be your own provider. You were never meant to be your own protector. You were never meant to be the architect of your entire future. You have a Father, and if He holds tomorrow, then you don't have to. Jesus said it, and He meant it. The question is, will you believe Him?